Okay, on that note, we're going to do a restart. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Monroe Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for June 22nd, 2021. Noreen, roll call, please.
Michael Murphy.
Here.
Eva Lewis.
Here.
Kevin Scully.
Here.
Austin Side is not here. Marcy Daniel.
Present.
And Chip Postlegione.
Here.
I'll get it.
Thank you, Noreen. And I'm going to ask everybody to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Thank you. Okay, so with that taken care of, I just want to point out the emergency access points. If you need to exit in a hurry, there are emergency doors on the back wall, and we can also go out the front doors the way we came into the building tonight. Tonight we have a relatively short agenda, and the first item on the agenda is a public hearing for Rodic Markovici. I'm going to ask you to come up to the board and give a brief presentation on the request you're making before us tonight.
This is on for a public hearing tonight, right?
Yes.
Yes, we have to open this as a
And
public.
we've got postings and mailings all done,
All done.
so you should entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that,
Okay. On the top of that mic is a button. Can you slide that up toward, in the middle of the top? All right, your
Right there.
hand is right there. Slide it towards you. Nope, not yet. Slide the button towards you.
Working now?
Yep.
oh, there you go. Very good. Okay, so if you could, sir, let us know your name.
My name is Julian Avior, and I'll help Rodi to perform the project.
Okay, and what you're bringing before the board tonight is a request for a variance on your property because you're looking to make an extension on an existing home.
Correct.
Can you give us any of the details on that?
The variance basically is because the property is in existing condition, which is closer to the road the variance is 21 feet, more or less. And all the project that we make is not making this variance more difficult or more negative. All the construction, all the addition that we make on the house is going to be in the other side, which we have a lot of distance to the property lines. And in our hope is that the house is going to be looking much better, and the property is going to be much more organized. We start doing nice stuff on the property to clean up. We cannot build yet, but we clean up, we make it nice looking. If somebody is driving on Lakes Road, probably they see the difference now.
So as I understand it, the property is located on Lakes Road next to Round Lake, just on the south side of Round Lake as you headed out Lakes Road on the right-hand side.
Yes, it's
And
corner to
it's a
Twins Lake.
2.9 acre parcel of land.
Correct.
Last time, there was a question about county road frontage or...
Yes, the required front yard setback in this zoning district is 40 feet. And I had raised a question as to whether or not on a county road that requirement gets expanded to 50 feet in all districts. I read through the Town of Monroe zoning code and I could not find that in our code. So we stand with the dimension of 40 foot for the minimum front yard setback. Sorry, I don't have a copy. Do you have a copy of the map in front of you? Okay, so the
Chairman, I also confirm that with the building inspector, that he knows of no such 50 feet off a county road. waiver request.
That might be a different town I'm remembering that in. Okay. Yeah, yes, so we're looking at your map. Let me see if I can bring it up on the screen here. So that image on the screen pretty much shows the issue that we're dealing with here. You're looking to do an extension to the south side yard and into the rear yard towards Round Lake.
Correct.
And the existing setback from the existing road frontage is approximately 19 feet, where 40 feet is required. You're not making this condition any worse with this request.
Correct.
And the front yard setback variance is the only variance that's being requested at this time.
Yes.
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions?
So you're going to extend, the back is going to be a proposed kitchen expansion?
It's the kitchen expansion and the bedroom expansion.
Got it. And then
It's more or less 700 square feet of living space.
okay. And then
That's all.
is it a new deck behind that?
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
same deck is moving,
Got it.
it's going to be a new deck. You cannot use the same deck.
Got it. And then the only other, you're going to add a garage on the
Yeah.
left side, okay. No.
Board members? Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions from the general public?
Nobody signed in with me.
Okay.
I have just one issue. My understanding is that this is, because on the county road, we were going to send out for GML.
I did send it out, I have not heard back. They
And do we
say
know?
they are overwhelmed.
Really? Okay. And is that, do you know the date that you sent it out? Has it been 30 days?
It's just shy of 30, but she said that she probably wouldn't have it back in the 30. She didn't feel there was an issue, but that's all she would say at that point.
Okay, so we're a couple of days shy of the 30-day calendar. Our belief is that the county does not have any objection. The county planning department has no objection to this, and I don't see why they would have an objection to it. Can we move forward at this time, or would that be procedurally incorrect?
We think creatively here, right? Because the rule is that you can't take an action you have to give the county 30 days to respond. And you're not supposed to take action inside that 30 unless you've received a response within the 30.
Does that response have to be written?
Trying to picture the rule in my head. I'm trying to photographically, does it say in writing? I think it does. I think it refers to a written response. I couldn't swear to it right now, but I believe it's a written response. So.
So saying that they're not going to have it.
Right. It would appear as a practical matter, I mean, look, all of us looking at this, we see the way the building is configured. It's not imposing additional burdens on sight lines. We could all sort of reasonably predict, even if we hadn't heard from them, that they probably are not going to have an objection, but we don't know that. In addition, they've said they're probably not going to get back to you within the 30 days, and you're free to act, certainly. The moment 30 days is gone, you're free to act, no matter what, even if they later come back with a comment recommending a disapproval or something like that. They've
Right, because
they've
under that
waived the
case,
right
we
to
would
be
need
heard.
a supermajority of the board to carry the motion.
So is there a way to get through this if the board was inclined to, entertain a motion to approve on the on the facts as they are now? Could you do that? I think the answer is you're not technically supposed to, but I'm trying to think through how would you do it in a way that would protect you in the very unlikely event that sometime in the next 2 days, the board, the board receives a letter from the county that's sort of surprising. So how many days is it, Noreen?
I can't get into my email to
Okay.
see it up here, I just tried.
There's none of this work that he's proposing is going to change the footprint of what's not compliant at this time anyhow.
So perhaps what we do, and the way the board's been proceeding with resolutions, is to vote tonight, and then you authorize me to prepare a resolution that's then signed by the chairman without further notice. Maybe the practical way through is to vote tonight, subject to. What's that?
You must have hit your mute, because you're not.
Okay, sorry about that. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way through it to vote tonight, if you were inclined to vote for an approval, contingent upon there being no response received from the county within the 30-day period. And then if, in the unlikely event that we get something, then the chairman doesn't sign the resolution, and we come back at the next meeting and address it. I mean, not the best procedure in the world, but I think under all the circumstances, I think it's probably safe.
And 30 days on the clock doesn't start, it starts from when Noreen reached out?
Correct.
Starts from the day that I sent it to them.
Right.
Sorry, it starts from the day that I send it to them.
So I think, what's your best guess? I saw, there was sort of a flurry of emails around June 1. Would it have been around then, or would it have been like a day or two after the last meeting, do you think?
In a week after the last meeting,
Okay, which was May
May 25th.
25th. So we're right on it right now, right? I mean, we're within a week.
Right, I know, I personally sent 5 in 2 days, because I had planning board and I had ZBA ones.
So look, I'm comfortable recommending, if you want to go forward with a motion, and I'm being presumptive here, but hearing, knowing the tenor and knowing the application, if you're inclined to vote.
On your mic.
Geez, so I got to get to the thing. I'm going to eat it in a second. Right. I'm okay if you, as long as you embed within the motion that it's contingent upon no negative response being received by the county within the 30-day period. We can handle it that way. I think that's acceptable.
The judicious way to approach this thing, not to spend another month.
It's a reasonable,
waiting.
practical
Yes.
solution.
Okay. So with that being clarified, I guess our next step is to close the public hearing. I hear a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Anybody second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Now, do I hear a motion from the board members to grant the Marcovici property a front yard variance to allow the pre-existing non-conforming front yard to exist, and which would allow them to proceed with their building permit with the building department, and also that this is contingent upon not receiving a negative letter from the Orange County Planning Department on this action. Generally, they leave these matters, small matters, to local determination, and we are just a couple of days short of the 30-day response period in taking this action.
Does not receiving a negative letter about that, or receiving nothing from them if they're so backed up, if as long as you hit the 30 days, then...
Well, that's part of the problem, is we're not quite on 30 days yet. We're like
No,
at
I
27.
know, but come 30 days, if you still haven't received anything,
Yes,
you'll take that.
right, that's their time clock. They've
Right.
got 30 days to respond. That's correct.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
no, I know you haven't fully discussed the 5 factors, what you could do, since, I don't know, were you making a motion? Because you can make a motion a second and then deal with it in the discussion. That's a way you could do it. Did you make the motion, or you were going to?
Oh, he was just
I was asking if somebody would like to make that motion, but
over the 5.
we can go over the 5 factors.
You have them in front of you, or you want me to?
Again, once again, I don't have them in front of me.
The first question, as you know, is whether an undesirable change would be producing the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby communities by a grant of the variance. Anybody feel that there would be? The next is whether the benefits sought could be achieved by some feasible method other than area variance.
No.
Next is whether it's substantial. Next is whether there would be an adverse effect or impact on the environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And last is whether it was self-created.
Oh. Pre-existing, and the only thing that makes it self-created is by going for a building permit to do an addition to the rear.
So the front yard issue was not self-created, but the need for the variance is self-created because it's he's voluntarily looking to add on and expand the house. So in that sense, it's self-created under the law, but that doesn't preclude the grant of the variance and an area variance. Okay, so sounds like all the factors are lining up for a motion to approve, subject to and conditioned upon no negative letter or negative recommendation from the county being received within the 30-day time period.
So at this point, I'd like to know if one of the board members would like to make a motion to grant a front yard variance to the Marcovici property, granting them relief from the 40-foot minimum setback, whereas they have 18.9 existing. That was a pre-existing condition. They are not making that any worse or better by this action. And also, that this motion would be contingent upon receiving a letter from Orange County Planning Department stating, that they have no objection to this action.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance for front yard setback, as Chairman Murphy described, as well as long as it's contingent upon us not receiving a negative response letter from the county, or after 30 days, it
That's correct.
automatically.
I'll second.
In addition to that, do we do it under a separate motion, or we just add that on? That we have our attorney prepare?
That's separate.
You could do it either way. You could embed that within the motion.
Okay. So let's embed that in the motion.
So I'd like to make a motion within that to authorize.
On the mic.
To authorize the attorney to structure a resolution.
Prepare a confirming
Prepare.
resolution and to authorize the chairman to sign it thereafter.
All right, does anybody want to second that motion?
I'll
I can have
second.
a motion.
Oh, everybody wants to second that motion. That was a good motion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So granted.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, as you heard, we're going to have to let the time clock tick out, which will happen as our attorney prepares the resolution for my signature. By the time all of that happens, the 30 days will have expired. If we do receive anything from the county that is contrary to our decision that we've made here tonight, we may have to take follow-up actions on that.
Of course.
Okay.
And when the gentleman is going to finish his work, we can start going to building department for
Back to the
permit.
building department. That's correct. And we should have that within a couple of weeks.
We know.
Get
Lorenzo
you the
does.
signed copy as soon as I get it.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks
right.
so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Good
Good
night.
luck.
One of these days, we're going to know on number 5. Luck.
Okay, so the next item we have up for a public hearing is the Claire Runco property on Route 17M in Monroe.
We'll also have the same GML with them because they were on 17. It was submitted the same time frame. Told you I did 5 in 2 days.
Well, that going into it this time.
Right.
This is also on for a new public hearing tonight,
New
right?
public
Correct.
hearing. So we're going to need a motion to open up a public hearing.
Make a motion to open up the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, David.
Hello, everyone. I'm back.
You're our best guest.
You're our Steve Martin.
Well, on that note, I'll take that and run. So, well, it's good to be back to present this project. Thank the board for reviewing it and also for the recommendation regarding the lot area coverage. So we're here presenting 355 Route 17M property owned by Air LLC. Claire Runco is a managing member. Most people know it by Today Angelina Restaurant. The building, some work needed to be done in the back to repair certain items and bring them to code. As a result, the building department cited section 57-5, compliance with bulk requirements required regarding non-conforming structures. Since this building is a pre-existing non-conforming structure, he referred it to the ZBA. As a result, we're asking for 2 area variances. One was an area variance for front yard. The required front yard setback is 60 feet. Our existing front yard is 18.9, so we're requesting a 41.1 foot setback in the front. The second is a lot area coverage area variance. The maximum allowed is 65%. We have a lot coverage of 87%, which results in a 22% variance. This was all noted in the public notice that was sent out. The mailings were done. Actually, I have the green cards with me that we can submit also for record. And we look forward to your processing this application on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you, David. So the map that I'm sharing on the screen right now, this is an earlier version of the map. It doesn't call out the lot coverage easement.
Yeah, we submitted a map dated 5.
I just don't happen to have it on my screen. I'm just pointing out the difference, but we do have that in hand.
Just for the record, so the map that you submitted that shows the lot coverage, what's the revision date on that?
5/4/21.
Thank you.
I wasn't at the first meeting for this project. What's causing the?
There are some repairs that are needed to the back of the building.
Okay.
There were some appendages that needed upgraded or removal. When we submitted for a building permit, the building inspector realized that the building's a pre-existing non-conforming condition. while the work didn't trigger the variance, but the actual building's condition of a pre-existing non-conforming variety did trigger the ZBA application.
Currently for sale?
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
problem.
Okay.
Yes.
That's not another reason to have, I mean, putting it up for sale, what's being done to, fix the back is not something contingent for it to be for sale.
Well,
Probably
it has
would
to-
if,
it has to be
yeah, they would
done,
have to
yeah.
get the variances.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, I guess the other thing to point out is that, your application on the building was to repair the existing structure. There's no additions being made at this time.
That is correct. There was no change to the footprint of the existing building. And the attorney, Ron Kosar, I had an additional comment, which I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
He's going to
okay,
ask the
so
question.
the work being done on the back is not contingent on the sale of the building.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I just was interested if that was the case.
Simply making it more attractive, making these changes to make it more attractive. for
Yes,
sale.
just upgrading it, making it.
Can't move the whole building back 40 feet, Mike?
I'm just a little bit,
I'm okay architect, but that would be a little bit difficult.
I'm just a little bit confused, only in that if it's pre-existing, non-conforming, and you're not expanding the footprint, the front yard condition isn't being changed, the lot coverage, you're not adding to the lot coverage.
No.
Usually, like repairs, maintenance and repair doesn't itself trigger the need for a variance for a pre-existing non-conforming. So what's actually triggering the need for the variance here,
Well,
if you know?
Well, he said
Mike?
in his letter,
Compliance with bulk regulations required,
yeah,
non-conforming
anything
structures.
structurally.
Bring the mic closer, please, Dave, I'm sorry.
Is this good? Okay. So in his letter, it's pretty broad, the interpretation regarding 57.5. It says anything structurally altered, enlarged, rebuilt, et cetera, would fall under this parameter, under this regulation.
I see. It's the structural alteration, not the enlargement or expansion. You're
Correct.
doing some structural alterations?
I mean, even barely that. I mean, it's not really structurally as a consistent with the structure of a building. But other modifications, yes, absolutely.
Mind explaining exactly what are you doing?
There are some things in the back. There's areas that were built throughout the many decades that this has been in existence that need to be upgraded. So there's like an enclosure in the back for storage. There's a connector, as shown in the site plan, that goes across the back of the building. Those things need to be upgraded. They just fall into disrepair. They haven't been throughout the decades, and they haven't been documented, so now they're documented. And in addition to that, too, there's a swale that needs to be put in the back of the property to catch any water coming from the property upper of it and collect it out.
That he granted.
And that he granted.
What?
And apparently he granted a permission to do the swale.
Yeah, I mean, that whole back is like a ice skating rink in the
Sure.
winter.
Sure.
Okay. So the structural alterations that are not affecting the footprint, not increasing the lot coverage, and not increasing the condition that's in the pre-existing condition that's in the front yard.
Correct.
So would that be something that, I'm still a little confused with your question to him, if the answer clarified it? Because it didn't for me.
It was less than totally specific on what the structural alterations are, but if, in looking through the denial letter from Ben, it's the February 24, 2020 letter. It quotes the section that's applicable to expansions of pre-existing non-conforming uses. And in there, the language is 57-5. It says, "Except as hereinafter provided, no building or structure or part thereof shall hereafter be erected, structurally altered, enlarged, or rebuilt, except in conformity." So usually this issue will come up when you have, pre-existing non-conforming as to bulk and the applicant, like, for example, that last application where there's a pre-existing non-conformity as to bulk in the front yard, and they're expanding, they're adding on to the back portions of it. Like 90% of these things that are going to require variances under these circumstances are because of an expansion, a physical expansion. But when you look at the code, it's a little bit broader than that. It doesn't just grab physical expansions, it grabs structural alterations. So Ben has made the determination as building inspector, code enforcement officer, that whatever the structural alterations that are being, proposed or that need to be done are sufficient to qualify into that section to say, hey, look, you can't even do those unless you get a variance for these pre-existing nonconformities. I don't know if that clears.
Yeah, no, it just clears it up. And just a couple more questions. So if you go ahead and grant the variance for the volume and the setback, is that a prelude to expansion in the future?
I don't know about the use. Is the use a permitted use in that zone? Is it pre-existing non-conforming use, or is it pre-existing non-conforming only as to bulk?
Only as to bulk. I mean, it's in a commercial district, and it has been for years. And by the way, that building has been out there since 1940.
Right.
You know, so it's older than most of us sitting here in this room.
So
Good times.
So to answer the question specifically, like, this would basically legalize the existing, nonconformities.
Yeah.
And if he wants to come back and do another expansion, he wouldn't need new variances for the expansion for the old variances. If any new expansions themselves required variances now.
Coverage.
He would, like if he added to the structure, he'd have to come back for a new lot coverage.
But if
He wouldn't
had-
have to go for all of it. He'd have existing approval for the lot coverage of 87. If he wanted to add something that brings it to 91, he'd be asking for a variance to come from the 87 to the 91, not from the 65 to the 91.
Right.
Anything that would be added to this building would have to be handled as a site plan through the planning board, right? Because let's say it's a restaurant. Let's say they want to put another dining room on there, and they're going to eat up some of their parking lot to build that new dining room. Well, that doesn't change the impervious cover, so he's kind of covered there, and maybe he sets it back so he's not infringing on the front yard anymore. But that application would have to go to the planning board, and then the planning board would look at everything like number of parking spaces, how many tables, and so that would get a full review there. And if there were any variances that were required, then it would come to us at that point. But just by granting these two variances tonight, we're just allowing him to keep what's existing out there.
Got it.
What about building up? I mean, as long as it's within the code.
Yeah, it would all depend on what the project is, and Ben would look at it and compare it to the code provisions and either grant it or deny it. And if he denies it, then they have the option to come back for another variance.
Mike?
There again, this is a commercial property, and any changes they make to this building to expand it and expand the uses, they'll have to go back to the planning board for a site plan update. So, it's not like that by granting this, the next person can come in and start putting additions on this thing at will.
Is for sale, and it is a restaurant now.
Yes.
Once it's sold, who knows?
Anybody in the public that would?
Yeah, right? Maybe it's Jewel. Somebody was at the, might be that other applicant.
Can we continue on without the secretary?
We should wait because she's
Yeah.
taking the minutes.
Okay.
Battle.
Ed performance.
His corner.
Final
That
number.
seat's only big enough for one of you.
Sun came back out.
Yeah.
Okay, the board has no further questions, the public has no further questions. With that, I'd like to hear a motion for closure of the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
The
Second.
motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Same issue, I think, applies on this one with regard to the GML county planning review. I assume it was only county planning that required the GML. So, you know, if you're inclined to entertain a motion to grant, I would suggest that you do the same,
But
you know,
it's a
you proceed the same
yeah,
way.
it's a state highway. Does that make any difference?
Oh, is it? Did any other, is it on a state road?
Yeah.
Did it come up with any other required GML reviews, any other, like state DOT or anything like that? Did it get sent out to state DOT by
No,
any
I didn't
chance?
send it to anybody else.
They're not proposing any changes to the entrances or exits, and that's the only time that the state would get involved if you're changing something within their
Okay.
right-of-way, road cuts and.
Yeah, if nothing else came up,
Maybe
you
it
know, in
wasn't
the
supposed to
review.
go to them?
No, I don't think so, but,
I sent one she didn't want.
yeah, no, so, no, I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
Right then. Peter, if I can borrow your map. This is the new one. Okay, would anybody like to make the following motion? Before we get to the motion, let's go through the criteria, the 5 factors.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I'm like,
I gotta
I'm
get a
listening,
copy of
I'm
that.
waiting,
Keep
you're like, go
going.
ahead. So the first one is, as the board is aware, is whether an adverse impact would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties by the grant of the variance.
No.
Whether the applicant can achieve the benefits sought through some other feasible mean.
No.
Whether the variance is substantial. Whether there's an adverse effect or impact on the environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
No.
And whether it's self-created.
On the mic.
The lot coverage is kind of significant, no? I mean, not that it's going to affect.
Yeah, the substantiality of the variances, right, yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right in the grand scheme of things. That's a lot of lot coverage, but that can be mitigated by, you know, all the other factors and how long it's been there and, you know.
The fact that there's no change to the footprint of the building.
Right,
Yeah.
and there's no change to the parking lot being proposed now.
Right.
And all of these improvements have existed probably long before.
On the mic. Can't turn
All
your
of
head
these
away.
existing conditions on this lot have existed, you know, long prior to the zoning regulations that we're currently dealing with here.
Okay.
So, I would entertain a motion for granting 2 variances, one for front yard setback of 18.9 feet, where 60 feet is the requirement in the zoning, and a maximum lot coverage of 87%, where 65% is allowed. Also, these variances would be subject to receiving no letter from the Orange County Planning Department under the GML law that are negative to this application or change these conditions. And also add to that having our attorney prepare a resolution to that effect.
Authorizing the chair.
And authorizing the chairman to sign.
Motion to pass the variance as described by Chairman Murphy.
Would you like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Business here with us tonight, David?
Thank you very much, board members.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
See you next time, Mr. Baldwin. Saturday Night Live, you are.
What's your record now, Dave?
Live. And Steve.
I caught that. I'm that old.
I think your record's now 10-3. Dave, 10-3 is your record now. No.
Hey, we have a dance floor. I could start dancing. This will be great. Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Right. You're good?
Okay, so that wraps up our public hearings for tonight. And the next two items on the agenda, one is DG Realty, who postponed till next month. And the other item is Jewel Rutledge.
There was somebody outside, I saw an orange shirt, so that's why I went out there, but I couldn't find them anymore. I don't know where they went. I was looking to see if somebody was over here.
Okay, so
I spoke with Jewel the other day, making sure everything was set, and he said he wasn't coming, but his representative was coming tonight. So unless he forgot, but I said the 22nd 3-4 times.
all right, so with neither of the continuing applications being present tonight, that concludes our business for the meeting. Also, moving on to other administrative matters, we did receive a letter today from Austin Syed resigning from the board because he is moving out of the town of Monroe. I believe he has a closing on Monday of next week, so that was very fast sale of his house. He didn't expect it to occur that fast. And he had given me a heads up on that about a month ago, that might occur, and he was just surprised at how quickly that happened. So I want to, publicly thank Austin for all the time he did put in on the board and for his, his input to each of these meetings, always asking good questions and being quick to look things up in the code while we needed him to. So
Yeah, for the public, I'd like to also thank Austin for that. He was very inquisitive, and obviously his background lent itself good to our board.
And he was supposed to be here tonight, but he did send an email at 7 o'clock, which I missed. Yeah, so I missed his email, and we postponed the start of the meeting until he could get here, because this would have been his final meeting. So he missed his final meeting. Gosh darn it. But in that light, we have Chip Postilione, who has joined us on the board tonight as an alternate member. And now with Austin resigning from the board, we now have the opportunity to appoint Chip as a full board member, if Chip would be so interested.
Certainly.
Everybody good with that?
Absolutely.
All right, so we're back up to a five-member board, and we do have two openings for two alternates at this point.
Does the council have to approve the elevation?
Yeah, I mean, we are not appointing
Right,
Chip
right.
right here, we're just kind of discussing
Yeah,
it.
got
That
it.
has to go to the town board. We'll send our recommendation to the town board.
No?
No, alternates automatically move up.
Oh.
I said
really?
something to Tony, and he said, that's your decision. I said, well, not mine personally.
Well,
Boy, if I had the power.
well,
We'll take a look at we'll take a look at it, and I'm sure Brian Nugent will advise the town board if they need to do something in particular to formally appoint you a full member, we'll do that. If not, then, or if so, in the meantime, you're certainly an alternate still and you're serving, but we'll get that issue figured out.
Okay, we'll get,
You're sworn in the book and everything, so.
Yes.
Right, okay.
so does anybody else have any items?
You're getting a whole bunch next month, trust me. I've been very busy.
And Marcia, you're also new to the board, you've been with us for 3 meetings now?
On the mic.
That's correct.
So we're glad to have you,
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's been fun.
and you'll stick in there with us.
Yes.
Girl power.
Very short meetings.
Yes,
Last few have been
the last few have been fairly quick, and tonight went really fast because there were, several applicants that didn't appear. It doesn't always go that quickly.
Although I feel last month we were here until 9:30.
It's not breaking my heart.
That's still
I was at a meeting last night till about 11 o'clock, so this is a pleasant surprise today.
Half day.
Okay, so does anybody else have anything? No? With that, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Good night, everybody.